And another thing about Lewis structure diagrams. There's a lot of things about Lewis structures, and formal charge is one of them. And the formal definition of a formal charge is the difference between the number of valence electrons on the free atom and the number of valence electrons assigned to the atom in the molecule. And that is a very difficult definition of formal charge, but how I know or memorize it is not by this equation. I think that's very difficult to memorize, especially with this coefficient of 1/2. So what you do is first you look at the periodic table. And if you look at the periodic table for this molecule, oxygen and sulfur are located in the same column or the group of the periodic table, which means that they have the same number of valence electrons. And first what you do is count the valence electrons that they share. And for formal charges, you don't count this bond as 2, you only count it as 1, right? So for oxygen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that goes around the same for all these 4 oxygen atoms. For sulfur, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. And we know that sulfur and oxygen, they both have 6 valence electrons. And what you will see is that oxygen will have 7 valence electrons basically over here, if you count it. And as sulfur, only 4. So if an atom has 1 more valence electron than it already should have, it should only have 6. So if this oxygen atom had 6 valence electrons shared, then the formal charge would be 0. But because they have 1 more, it's -1 for each oxygen atom. So -1, -1, -1, and -1. So far we have -4. However, sulfur has 2 less than what it should have. It has 4, but it's supposed to have 6. That's +2. So if we do -4 plus 2, that's -2. And -2 is represented in this charge over here, the overall charge of the molecule. So that's how you can kind of find the formal charge. It is kind of complicated, but it is definitely easier, in my opinion, than using this complicated equation. So just count the number of valence electrons, look at the periodic table to see how many valence electrons it should have, then just add them all up, and it will be the overall charge of the molecule.